Hi everyone. At questions and answers, I've been asked by Eric at what's the difference between bacon, gammon and hams? And this question keeps coming up, and it's coming up via, may I say, the younger generation, because my generation and older, bacon, gammon and ham meant the same thing, all right? So no matter where on the pig, where the meat was cured, that's what it was named: bacon, gammon or ham. You had a choice. You could use any of those three words. So of course it's got a different meaning today, because over the generations the meaning has changed slightly. Now, today, we tend to associate the middle part of the pig, once it's cured, to become bacon, okay? And then the shoulders and the back legs, once they're cured, are often referred to as hams. So, of course, the back leg is also got a, if it's cut long, it's got a chump, so you can cure that, and in fact they come very handy at Christmas time when you need those extra Christmas joints, hams or gammons. So so they are the hams. And then just to confuse things, a raw leg, which is pork, can be called a ham as well. So but anyway, I'll try and stick to the bacon, the cured meats. Some people refer to gammon as being like a cooked product, and you got to run with it, I suppose. But if you take out the top side of a leg of pork cured, then you've got a nice Christmas joint there. Or you can cure the whole leg, and all those sections, all those muscles can all be called ham. Or if you cut across the leg once it's been cured, then you've got yourself gammon steaks. Or if you take the whole primal out, the horseshoe, then you've got horseshoe gammon. Or you can make a lovely ham out of the horseshoe also. So then you've got people call bacon, the middle, the streaky and the short back. You've also got what they call whole bacon or middle bacon, and that's the short back and the streaky still attached. Okay, so you got that, and then you got what they call Canadian bacon and breakfast bacon. And breakfast bacon is usually associated to streaky bacon, and that's come about through the hotel trade. They always seem to serve up, because it's run by cost, streaky bacon as their breakfast bacon in the hotel trade. And but the home user, especially in Britain, they prefer the short back bacon, and that is also well used, like for a good old-fashioned bacon butty. And for those who don't understand what a bacon butty is, it's a sandwich, all right? So the short back would be used there, and there's variations of bacon: dry cured bacon, wet cured bacon, and then you've got all the different kind of cures, treacle, black bacon, and black hams, the Suffolk black ham, the Devon black ham. There was a Staffordshire black ham. In fact, most counties in Britain had their own black ham recipe or black bacon recipe. And yeah, you've got all those, and they're a bit of an acquired taste. They're very mature, and it's just like a certain clientele that likes those. They're very top end, I have to say, and you don't need a lot to appreciate it. So usually perhaps 1-2 slices at a push, and you've got the experience, whereas just standard bacon, you can chomp loads of it, can't you? So but getting back to the question, what's the difference in the old days, there was no difference. It's only today, you know, you have to imagine the pig broken up or broken down into its primals. And that's where the words are now associated. So just going off what I said earlier, the middle section of the pig is actually seen today as bacon, you know, whether that's complete or cut into streaky and short back. And then you've got you know, the back legs and the shoulders, you know, they can be hams and gammons. So the gammons today are more associated towards parts of the back leg, and then the whole lambs you can make out of boned and roe shoulder, and of course keeping the leg, you know, the back legs whole. So just a tip when you're curing the back legs of pigs for ham, what I tend to do is I try and find back legs that are 10 kilos and above for my hams, and once a back leg is more than about 7 kilos, again, this is just my, you know, my take on it. There I would use a brine pump once it's above 7 kilos, because that's a great big piece of meat, especially when it's over 10 kilos. So when you're curing from the outside, and I prefer just to do dry curing myself, you know, not the biggest fan on wet curing, there's nothing wrong with it, but I prefer the dry curing. That salt for a big piece of meat like that can take ages, weeks and weeks and weeks to get through. So what I do, I brine pump in and near the bone about four times, but never more than 15% of the total weight of the leg. I don't come anywhere near that. You know, I'll probably get somewhere around about 5 to 7%. But you know, I think the rules are you don't do more than 15%. But mine is about half of that. And by putting in a wet brine, injecting that in and near around the bone areas, you're curing from the inside out, whilst the dry cure from the outside is coming in. This is the best way to get, you know, the best hams in an artisan form, okay? And but even then it takes a long time. And what you have to be careful of, especially with these big hams, okay, is that your chillers, your walk-in chillers, your fridges are not too cold. Because curing, the colder it is, the slower the cure works. In fact, the cure can stop mid-travel if it's too cold. So if your chiller is less than 4 degrees, you're going to run into trouble, believe me. And because the cure is going to come in, and then it's really feeling the cold, and it'll stop. And you want it to go all the way to the middle, okay? Now, in order for that to happen, then you need your chiller, your temperature at plus 4 degrees. I found in my experience it works best at 6 to 8. That really works well. But of course, like, you can't be changing your temperatures on your fridges when you're using your fridge space for other things as well. And then you've got to be mindful of the EH, or they don't like you running your chillers above a certain temperature. So be a bit careful. But anyway, that's my advice. So, but remember, because once you've cured a big piece of meat like that, and you cut it open, and then you open it out, butterfly it out, and you can see, there's a big band of pink, but there's like a grey spot in the middle. That's more than likely, well, there's two things. It could be that it's not been cured long enough, or it could be it's been too cold. The temperature's just got too cold, and the curing has stopped, or it's travelling so slowly it hasn't reached the centre of the meat. All right. So this is probably more than likely for those who have those problems. So have things at the right temperature. Make sure you give it plenty of time. And I'll cure a back leg. This is for cooked hams, by the way. yeah, I would cure them anything between 4 and 6 weeks, no problem, and that pretty much guarantees the best results. And if you want to play around with ham flavours from cooking, the end results, then if you boil your ham, we call it boil. We don't want raging water, but if you boil your ham, then the taste of your ham is going to be relatively mild, shall we say, and if you want a more powerful flavour, then the trick to do there is oven roast your ham. You can get an in-between by boiling or part boiling and then finishing off in the oven, so you can get that also. So you need to play around with that, so you'll get different flavours and a slightly different colour, a darker colour usually on oven roasting. And of course there's lots of techniques as well of how to take the skin off with your hams, particularly when you've been doing some oven roasting and things. And if you really want to make something special for Christmas, like a marmalade ham or something like that, or a pineapple ham, what you need to do is get 2 boning knives, put them in a hot mug of water or a jug of hot water so the blade gets a little bit hot, and then you get your blade just underneath the skin, in between the skin and the layer of fat. Very, very important that you've got fatty pigs for these products, these hams. And then you just get underneath your skin and change the knife, put the one back in hot water, get the next one, and it's like a knife through butter, and that will help. Sometimes you can just get hold of the skin and pull it right back, but do it slowly, just take your time, because you don't want to be pulling away any fat. And once you've got your skin off, if I pretend this card is the ham, you'll find there's a corner piece to the ham where it's been cut. Okay, and what you want to do is get your this is where you've got the skin off and you're on the fat, and you draw your first cut from that point right down to this corner, where the hock end is. And that gives you your first line. And then with your I should have got them out to demonstrate. With your knife, your ham knife, you put it against that line that you've cut. Turn the blade so the blade is facing down, and then take your second cut through the fat. Only go halfway through the fat. Don't go so deep that you expose the meat underneath the fat, all right? That's too much. Anyway, and you keep doing that all across the one side, and again on the opposite side. And then you turn your leg around, and then you do it the opposite direction. Okay, so that gives you your nice diamond formation in a uniformed pattern, and with a good starting point from the corner where the ham's at like a point at a square, and then you just come down to the hock end. All right. Excuse me. I wish I was actually doing it, with the ham in my hands. It'll be easy to explain. So, and then from there, you can, apply your marmalade, get some chosen marmalade, or maybe homemade marmalade, and then apply that to your, to your ham, and then put it back in the oven and allow it to, burn off a little bit. So it just becomes, at the points of the diamonds, just become a little bit, I use the word burnt, but, well cooked. And then the sugar in the jam, in the marmalade rather, will help to really colour it up as well. And it adds that sweetness against the, slight sharpness of the ham. Ham's not that sharp, but, they complement each other anyway. So you could do that, and you can use many kinds of dressings, different kinds of jams. You can do the honey one, of course, And the thing there would be in between the diamond cuts, you know, you could actually drizzle your honey or maple syrup in those grooves, and then with a special sugar, maybe a dark sugar, and just sprinkle that over so as it sticks to the honey. The honey is the glue, and then again when it's in the oven, it's just, you know, the sugar that gets the you know, the heat of the oven and colours up without damaging the meat. But and of course, like to get the best out of it, for slicing, it's best when it's chilled down, you know. And but if you want it, you know, warm, then you're going to have to make thicker cuts, because it's impossible to slice it thin when it's hot or warm, that type of thing. So you know, ham on the bone sells really well. So you know, especially at Christmas. But you can still call a ham on the bone when you've taken the big femur out. All right, so that's another step you could introduce, you know, before you finish the cooking off, and then you could take that out, but leave the hock bone in, so the hock is still attached. So you can still call it ham on the bone, which it is, but you've taken the biggest bones out, and you'd have to tie it. And but before you put it like back together, just a little trick here is to get yourself a handful of gelatin powder and throw it in where you've taken the bone out from. Okay, so when you come to cook your ham, the gelatin that you've just packed in the wound area, you know, of where the bone, you know, used to be, that will act as a form of glue. So when the cooking reaches the gelatin, it'll act as a glue. So when your ham chills down, it's together, you know, stuck together quite well. So it's not cheating, all right, it's just having the knowledge. So so you could do that. So there's many things. Gammon is one of my favourite meats. I love gammon. Horseshoe gammon, you know, oh great, well, that's a huge piece to have. Just remember, when you're cooking those, you need to cut, you know, with a knife or with scissors around the rind. Okay, you know 1.5 inches apart. Otherwise, your gammon is going to curl up in a skillet. So and you want it to be as flat and as near to the skillet pan as, you know, where possible. So to avoid it curling up, just cut the rind. So there's a little cooking tip there. You know, if you're breaking up a back leg once it's been cured, you can take the slipper joint out and make little gammon steaks out of the slipper joint, and those could be put together with like a mixed grill pack. We haven't seen those for a while, have we, in the trade, you know? So Tim Bilton, are you watching this video? Chef, you ought to do that in your lovely little business. Is you know, put a mixed grill tray together with a few lamb cutlets and slipper joint of gammon and so forth. Do your little treat, you know, at Great Chef Butcher Tim. So moving on from gammons, then we get to the bacon. Well, you know, I think we know enough about bacon, don't we? But if you've got any questions, get in touch. Please don't forget to like and share, and buy me a coffee if you don't mind. Okay, toodaloo.